I'd been married to Elias for 8 full years before I found out there was a family group chat, and I wasn't in it. It was a random Tuesday night. Elias left his phone face up on the coffee table while he hopped in the shower. The screen flared alive with a WeChat notification, a text from his mom Mary, paired with a soft smile emoji. "Lily, come over for dinner this weekend. Elias misses you like crazy." My fingers froze mid-fold of his work button-downs. I didn't move an inch, just stared at the name Lily burning bright on the screen. Lily. The girl Elias always brushed off as his sister's random friend, someone he swore he barely spoke to. The shower's running water drowned out the rush of blood in my ears. I'd spent 8 years bending over backward for this man, every paycheck routed into a joint household account he controlled, every holiday planned around his family's schedule, every hospital visit, every lonely birthday, every cold dinner waiting for his late-night work drinks. I never once questioned him, but he said his family preferred private conversations off my radar. I trusted him blindly. Curiosity curdled into sharp, icy dread, and I reached for his phone. The passcode was our wedding anniversary, October 17th, a date I'd carved into my memory, one he only acknowledged when I dragged him to a cheap dinner once every 4 years. Unlocking it took half a second, and I tapped straight into the group chat labeled our family. The member list loaded slow, each name a punch to the ribs. Elias, Mary his mother, Robert his father, his younger sister Clara, Clara's husband, and Lily.6 total members. Zero trace of me, Chloe, his legal wife of 8 years. I didn't scroll the chat logs right away. I snapped a full screenshot of the member roster and sent it to my personal phone, proof locked down before I let myself dig deeper. The group creation timestamp seared itself into my vision. March 17th, 2018. We'd gotten married October the year prior. 5 months after walking down the aisle, Elias had locked me out of his own family's inner circle entirely. The earliest messages were all his doing, short, careless lines typed like he'd never considered adding me to the fold. Elias, Mom, made this group so we can hash out family stuff without blowing up each other's phones. Mary, sounds perfect, honey. Clara spammed a silly cat meme. Robert typed a slow, rambling reply saying the group name fit just right. Our family, the label mocked me. I was his wife, legally bound to him, carrying every financial burden of our shared home, yet I didn't qualify as their family. The 2018 logs were sparse, only holiday planning snippets, and my name only popped up as an afterthought, an inconvenience they planned around avoiding. Mary, Elias's wife won't come over for Christmas this year, right? Elias, she's heading to her parents' place, no big deal. Clara, thank God, less crowd, way more peaceful. I remembered that Christmas vividly. Elias had lied straight to my face, claimed his mom had caught a bad flu, and the whole family was canceling their annual dinner. I packed 2 boxes of premium milk and fruit to drop off at their house anyway, only to find Mary sitting on the hospital ward couch munching sunflower seeds, perfectly healthy. I brushed it off back then, told myself I was overthinking that Elias wouldn't lie about something so trivial. That night, he'd stumbled home at midnight, reeking of liquor, and said he'd spent the whole shift sitting with his sick mother. I believed every word. I kept scrolling, my thumbs shaking against the glass screen, until March 2019 hit. A new member ping popped up, Lily added by Clara, with a message that made my chest constrict so tight I could barely breathe. Clara, bro, I added your person for you, finally. Elias sent a single word reply, yeah. Mary responded instantly, warm, ecstatic, welcoming a stranger into the private family chat I'd never been invited to after a year and a half of marriage. Mary, Lily's here? Welcome, sweet girl. We've been waiting for you to join us ages ago. Ages ago. I'd waited 8 years for an invitation that never came. Lily walked in overnight, handed a seat at their table, cheered on by Elias's entire bloodline. The shower faucet shut off mid-read, and I slammed Elias's phone screen down flat on the table, wiping all trace of my browsing off the lock screen before stepping back like I'd never touched it. He wrapped a bath towel around his waist, water dripping down his jaw, oblivious to the collapse of every truth I'd built our marriage on. Just sitting here staring at nothing? He grumbled, grabbing his phone and shoving it straight into his sweatpants pocket without a second glance. For 8 years, his phone never left his side, and I'd written it off as a harmless work habit, never once suspecting the secrets hidden behind that constant security. Waiting for the hot water to cycle back, I answered flatly, the same soft, accommodating tone I'd used every single day with him for 8 years. Once, I'd beg him to check restaurant menus with me, send him dozens of dress photos to pick outfits for work events, cry to him over small, stressful moments, ask for his input on every single life choice I made. I'd built my entire world around seeking his approval, clinging to every crumb of attention he tossed my way. Right then, something inside me snapped clean in half. No tears, no screaming, just a cold, quiet void where all my adoration used to live. I stepped into the steaming shower, letting scalding water pour over my shoulders, and didn't make a single sound. I didn't sob, didn't rage, just processed every lie stacked on top of lies, one by one, counting the ways he'd erased me from his family's narrative for nearly a decade. When I finished washing and stepped out, Elias was already curled on the bed, his back fully turned to me, glued to his phone texting someone I already knew was Lily. I folded his dirty laundry, neat and crisp, tucked it into our closet exactly like I did every single night, a mindless autopilot routine that suddenly felt hollow, meaningless. That night, I laid awake for hours, staring at the hairline crack running down our bedroom wall, one I'd begged him to fix 2 years prior, only for him to snap that new furniture and repairs were a waste of money. I thought of Lily's apartment, the one I'd later learned he'd fully funded, decorated top to bottom with fancy custom cabinetry and a flower balcony he'd insisted I couldn't afford. The contrast burned into my brain, a stark marker of how uneven our marriage had always been. The next morning, Elias rushed out the door without a proper goodbye, tossing a quick line over his shoulder that he'd be stuck at work dinners all night and not to hold dinner for him. I nodded, quiet, no follow-up questions, no text checking in on his safety, like I always used to send. The second the front door clicked shut, I pulled out my phone and pulled up the hundreds of screenshots I'd captured the night before, every single chat log preserved as evidence. I'd taken over 300 photos of the group's history, a complete timeline of every secret they'd hidden from me. I started with the 2019 Christmas records, scrolling slow, documenting every detail. Mary posted a thread that holiday saying Lily would hand-make dumplings for the whole family feast. Elias replied telling Lily not to overwork herself. Clara spammed excited celebration emojis. That same Christmas, Elias had lied to me about his mother's hospitalization, leaving me alone at home while he sat at a dinner table full of his family and Lily, grinning over a plate of sweet and sour ribs he'd spent 8 years claiming he hated with a passion. I'd never once cooked the dish for him, following his fake preference obediently, while he happily ate it beside another woman. My throat tightened as I moved to March 2020's logs, the month I'd undergone emergency appendix surgery. Elias had driven me to the hospital, signed my admission paperwork, then bolted mid-check-in claiming an urgent office crisis. I'd gone through pre-op prep, anesthesia, and post-op recovery all by myself, the nurses repeatedly asking where my spouse was, and me forced to make weak excuses for his absence. He popped in for 20 rush minutes after I woke up. No soup, no water, no painkillers, just a quick reminder to rest before he vanished again. That exact same afternoon, the Our Family chat blew up with plans for a high-end Japanese restaurant. Lily texted she'd been craving sushi and sashimi for weeks. Elias immediately replied he'd book a private booth right away. Mary chimed in, telling Elias not to pinch pennies for Lily's cravings. Clara sent a stream of drooling emojis, hyped for the meal. I laid in a hospital bed alone, fighting off post-surgery nausea and sharp abdominal pain, while the man I'd married picked out luxury dinner spots for his side piece with his entire family's full support. I kept scrolling, my vision blurring, but I didn't stop documenting every single betrayal buried in those messages. June 2020, my 32nd birthday, a day no one in Elias's family acknowledged, not a single call, text, or gift from him. I left work early to cook a full 4-course meal, waited from 6 p.m. until 9:30, reheating the cold dishes twice, only for Elias to stumble home drunk and brush off my quiet disappointment with a lazy excuse about mandatory corporate drinks. The group chat from that same evening told an entirely different story. Clara almost slipped up and called Lily a sister-in-law, before correcting herself mid-sentence, asking if Lily's birthday fell the next month. Elias typed one single line into the group that broke my heart completely. Today is Chloe's birthday. The chat went dead silent for 15 full seconds after that line hit the screen. Mary's reply was dismissive, careless, zero sympathy for the wife slaving away at home alone. Tell her to grab a cake for herself. No big loss. Elias never followed up, never said he'd rush home to celebrate, never offered to buy me a gift, or even send a short happy birthday text. The conversation dropped instantly, Clara posting a random funny video 40 minutes later to shift everyone's attention away from my forgotten birthday entirely. I'd skipped lunch and dinner that day, too heartbroken to eat, unaware the entire family had written my existence off as an afterthought the second Lily stepped into their circle. I sat alone on our living room couch, my phone dying fast, plugged into the charger, and kept digging through years of hidden conversations, each new log peeling back another layer of the lies Elias had stacked against me for 8 long years. Every dollar I'd earned, every hour I'd sacrificed, every lonely holiday and painful medical emergency, all discarded so he could prioritize Lily and his secret family group, locking me out of every part of his life that mattered. I didn't cry anymore. The grief had hardened into cold, calculated clarity. For 8 years, I'd centered every decision around Elias's wants, asked for his input on every purchase, every trip, every personal milestone, begged for his attention and care. Starting that morning, that version of Chloe vanished for good. I wouldn't ask him for anything again. No opinions, no company, no comfort, no financial support. I'd handle every single part of my life entirely on my own, and I'd make him watch as I stripped every piece of our shared life back out of his grasp. I pulled up a blank Excel spreadsheet on my laptop, labeled the file Asset Division, and started tallying every single dollar I'd poured into our marriage over 8 years, a forensic breakdown of every paycheck, mortgage payment, household expense, and gift I'd handed over to Elias's so-called joint household fund. As a certified public accountant, tracking cash flow and asset trails was my specialty, and I planned to build an airtight, unarguable paper trail of every single betrayal he'd committed with my hard-earned money. I spent 3 straight nights staying up until 2 a.m., waiting for Elias to pass out dead asleep before I grabbed his phone and dug deeper into the Our Family chat logs. I worked my day job as a CPA during business hours, crunching client balance sheets for 8 hours straight, then came home and treated Elias's hidden group like a high-stakes corporate audit. Every chat bubble, every money mention, every offhand comment about Lily's housing, bills, and shopping trips got timestamped, screenshot, and cross-referenced against my personal bank statements. This wasn't just venting heartbreak, it was evidence building, brick by brick. By the 3rd night, a brutal financial pattern slammed into me like a freight train, and I realized every single dollar I'd handed over to Elias's shared household fund wasn't going toward our home, our groceries, or our future. It was funding Lily's entire lifestyle, with his parents and sister cheering him on the whole time. The first smoking gun dated back to September 2019, a message Elias typed out plain as day for the whole family to read. Elias, Lily's lease is up. I'm upgrading her to a nicer apartment. Rent deposit plus 3 months upfront will run 12 grand total. Clara's reply popped up instantly, eyes wide with surprise. Clara, 12,000? That's absurdly steep for a rental, bro. Are you sure you want to drop that much cash? Elias didn't hesitate, defensive and protective of Lily before anyone could question him. Elias, it's a prime downtown neighborhood, worth every cent for her peace of mind. Then Mary's text landed, and my knuckles whitened so hard my nails dug half moons into my palm. Mary, don't you dare stress over the money, honey. Chloe's handling all our household cash flow anyway. It's barely a dent in what she brings in each month. I pulled up my direct deposit records right then, my screen lighting up with my monthly pay stub from that exact year, but I cleared $13,000 a month after taxes every single time. After covering our $4,800 mortgage payment for the house my parents fully funded, I'd auto-transfer the remaining $6,500 into Elias's so-called joint fund without fail, every single pay cycle. I'd cut my own personal spending down to almost nothing. No new clothes, no salon appointments, no weekend trips with friends, convinced we were saving for home repairs, a bigger couch, retirement. Instead, I was writing Lily's rent checks for her luxury apartment, subsidizing her rent year after year, while Elias's family brushed my $6.5 grand monthly sacrifice off as trivial pocket change. I kept scrolling the dated logs, my spreadsheet open on my laptop to tally every stolen dollar line by line. April 2020 brought another gut punch tied to Clara's wedding. Clara had sent wedding invitations to the whole family, and Elias told me he needed $3,000 from our joint fund as a wedding gift for his sister. I'd pulled the cash out of my own savings and handed it over without a second thought, eager to keep the peace with his family, but the group chat exposed the full truth minutes later. Elias, I dropped $5 grand on Clara's wedding gift total. 3 came from Chloe's pocket, the other 2 pulled straight from the household account. No one in the group batted an eye. Mary sent a heart emoji, Clara thanked him profusely, and Robert just typed a quick, "Well done, son." The extra $2 grand he'd siphoned from my consistent monthly deposits never got a single mention of repayment, never a note that it was my hard-earned income he was tossing around like spare change. Major plot twist 1, the $320,000 condo bought entirely with my earnings, titled solely in Elias's name for Lily. January 2021's chat thread stopped me cold, my scrolling thumb freezing mid-swipe. Elias uploaded a photo of a signed property purchase contract to the group, a bright, proud caption underneath. Elias, it's official, keys get handed over next week. This place is all yours, Lily. Lily flooded the chat with heart emojis and exclamation marks, overjoyed. Mary's response hit right after, celebratory and unapologetic about who the money really belonged to. Mary, finally, our girl Lily has a space of her own to call home. This is what a real family provides for one another. Clara asked the obvious follow-up question I'd been dreading to read. Clara, where'd the full down payment come from? That's a huge chunk of change all at once. Elias's one-word answer was the biggest lie he'd ever told me, straight to his family's faces. Elias, savings. Savings, I repeated the word out loud in an empty, hollow whisper, staring at the contract photo on his phone screen. I knew exactly what that savings consisted of because I was the sole contributor to that fund for 3.5 years running. From late 2017 through all of 2020, I'd transferred $6,500 monthly into that account, stacking up roughly $270,000 just from my base salary alone. Add my year-end performance bonuses, the overtime pay I picked up working weekends to pad our family savings, and the number landed perfectly at $320,000, exactly the down payment Elias dropped on Lily's condo, dollar for dollar. Every cent I'd scraped together, every sacrifice I'd made to limit my own spending, went straight to purchasing a fully furnished apartment for the woman secretly woven into Elias's family unit while I remained locked outside the group entirely. I pulled up photos Lily uploaded to the chat 2 months later, shots of the full renovation job she'd gotten to design top to bottom. Light oak hardwood floors, custom white cabinetry, floor-to-ceiling windows, a built-in flower planter rack mounted on her balcony, every detail polished and brand new. I glanced over at my own living room out of the corner of my eye, our shared marital home that my parents had covered the entire down payment for back in 2017. The drywall above the TV still had a jagged, unpatched crack running vertical down the wall. Our couch was the beat-up fabric set we'd bought the year we married, with fraying armrests and flattened cushions. 2 years prior, I'd hesitantly brought up replacing the sofa, asking Elias if we could set aside a small portion of our savings to upgrade it. He'd shut me down instantly, annoyed and dismissive. Elias, it still sits fine. Stop wasting money on trivial luxuries we don't need. Lily got custom balcony decor and a brand new condo paid for with my wages. I got a cracked wall and a worn-out couch I was forbidden to replace. The imbalance wasn't just noticeable, it was intentionally manufactured, built on Elias's endless willingness to prioritize Lily's comfort over every single one of my basic wants. I kept cross-referencing dates against my personal life milestones, and the pattern of betrayal never broke, no matter what major event I endured alone. October 17th, 2021, our 4-year wedding anniversary. I prepped a 4-course dinner, slow-cooked the stew he claimed to love, set out wine and candles on the dining table, and waited for him to walk through the front door from 6 p.m. until midnight. He texted me once around 7 saying a mandatory work event would run late, and I reheated the cold food 3 separate times before dumping the whole spread into the trash bin, eating nothing that night except a single glass of tap water. The Our Family chat from that same afternoon told a completely different story. Elias uploaded a screenshot of a luxury hot spring resort booking confirmation to the group, grinning as he typed his plan out for everyone to see. Elias, booked a private hot spring villa for the weekend, gonna take Lily to unwind. Lily replied with a string of giddy smiley faces. Clara teased him about being the most romantic guy in the family. Mary chimed in to say Lily deserved every bit of spoiling. While I sat alone in a quiet house mourning our anniversary, Elias was dropping hundreds on a weekend getaway for his secret lover, celebrating a date that meant absolutely nothing to him when it involved me. I stayed up past 2 a.m. On the fourth night of digging through his chat logs, ready to power down his phone and call it a night, until I stumbled across a 2023 thread that shattered whatever tiny, leftover shred of hope I'd clung to for our marriage. It was a long paragraph Elias had typed out unprompted, raw and unfiltered, laying out his entire long-term plan to discard me once I'd finished paying off our shared mortgage. Elias. Mom, I might as well be honest with you. We've got 3 years left on this house mortgage. Once those payments wrap up fully, I'm going to sit Chloe down and break the news to her. Lily can't keep waiting around forever. I've put her through so much unfair waiting these past few years. Mary's reply was cold, calculated, zero remorse for the wife funding every part of their little secret family. Mary, just make sure you handle it cleanly. Don't turn this into a messy public scene that embarrasses the whole family name. Clara typed a half-finished nickname for me, the word sister-in-law, half-written before she deleted it entirely, leaving a blank line in the chat before she typed a vague neutral line. Clara, just make sure you've thought every angle through, bro. 30 minutes after that exchange, Lily sent a single hugging emoji to the group, no words needed. Everyone understood the unspoken agreement they'd all colluded to uphold. Use me as a mortgage piggy bank for 3 more years, drain every last dollar I earn, then toss me aside once the house debt was gone so Elias could move in with Lily in the condo I'd financed. I set Elias's phone back down face first on the coffee table, my hand steady, no longer shaking from heartache. Grief had fully burned away, replaced by sharp, unshakable resolve. I wasn't going to wait 3 more years for him to execute his exit plan. I wasn't going to keep handing over my paychecks to fund another woman's dream life while I lived in neglected, broken down surroundings. I was done asking for his input, done compromising my needs, done letting his entire family treat me like a disposable financial tool. I dragged my laptop back over to the desk, pulled up my blank asset division spreadsheet, and began logging every single dollar I'd poured into this 8-year sham of a marriage, line item by line item, as a CPA would audit a corporate client's fraudulent books. I tallied every monthly transfer to the fake household fund first, stacking each year's contributions into clear numerical columns. October 2017 to December 2018, 14 months, $91,000 total transferred. Full 2019 calendar year, $78,000. Full 2020 calendar year, $84,000. Full 2021 calendar year, $90,000. Full 2022 calendar year, $96,000. Full 2023 calendar year, $102,000. Jan, August 2024, 8 months, $72,000. I ran the total sum formula on the spreadsheet, and the final number popped up bold and unignorable. $613,000 in personal income I voluntarily handed over to Elias's control over 8 years. Next, I added the standalone mortgage cost I'd covered single-handedly for 83 straight months, for $1,800 per month with zero contribution from Elias whatsoever. $398,400 total in mortgage payments solely from my bank account. I kept adding additional line items to build the full damage report. Home renovation costs. $90,000 of the $120,000 total remodel bill came out of my personal savings. Elias only covered $30,000. Recurring household overhead, utilities, property taxes, appliance repairs, groceries, furniture replacements, $110,000 of these costs paid exclusively by me. Family obligation expenses, holiday gifts for his parents, medical bills I'd covered for Mary's minor, cold hospital stay, the wedding cash I'd given Clara, roughly $90,000 in out-of-pocket costs for his blood relatives. When I summed every single category together, the grand total flashed across my screen, $2,763,400. Over $2.7 million of my personal earnings, sacrificed to sustain Elias, his family, and his secret girlfriend's lavish lifestyle for 8 consecutive years. Then I logged every dollar Elias could prove he'd put toward our shared life, cross-referencing bank transfers and receipts to avoid overestimating his minimal contributions. His total household financial input over 8 years landed at only $341,200. I stared at the 2 stark numbers side by side on my screen, a laugh huffing out of my throat that held no joy whatsoever, only bitter realization of how foolish I'd been to trust him blindly for nearly a decade. $2,700,000 of my money against barely $340,000 of his. The disparity was astronomical, undeniable, impossible for any judge to overlook once I submitted all my paper trails as evidence. I grabbed my phone and dialed Sarah, my closest friend and divorce attorney, who'd studied accounting alongside me back when I was sitting for my CPA licensing exams. Her line picked up on the 3rd ring, her voice warm and confused to hear from me at 2:30 in the morning. Sarah, Chloe, it's the middle of the night, everything okay? You sound dead calm, which is scarier than if you were sobbing. I kept my tone flat. Matter of fact, no trace of wobble or sadness. All the crying had already finished days prior. Now it was time for action. Chloe, I need to schedule an in-person meeting to go over a full divorce asset split case. Elias has been running a secret family group chat for 8 years without adding me, siphoned over $2.7 million of my income to buy a condo for his girlfriend Lily, and his entire immediate family has known and enabled every single lie this whole time. I've compiled 300 chat screenshots, 8 years of bank statements, and a fully itemized audit spreadsheet with every dollar traced. I have irrefutable proof of marital asset diversion and infidelity. Sarah went silent for a beat, processing the mountain of evidence I'd already assembled without a single argument or confrontation with Elias first. Sarah, bring every single document to my office first thing Monday morning. Don't confront him. Don't mention any of this until we draft the formal separation agreement and civil complaint. This case is ironclad with your background as a CPA. Judges eat up fully documented financial fraud like this. I hung up the call and closed my laptop, staring out the bedroom window at the dark street below. Elias slept soundly beside me, his breathing slow and even, completely unaware I'd mapped out the full legal takedown of every lie he'd constructed over 8 years. I didn't wake him, didn't snap at him, didn't demand an explanation. The version of me that begged for his attention, his honesty, his validation was gone for good. I wouldn't ask him for anything ever again. All that remained was the quiet, methodical execution of reclaiming every asset, every dollar, every piece of my identity he'd stolen from me over nearly a decade of marriage. After wrapping up my meeting with Sarah the attorney Monday afternoon, I settled back into our routine like nothing had shifted. I cooked every night, covered the mortgage auto-pay without a word, did all the laundry, scheduled grocery runs, all the small, endless labor I'd carried solo for 8 years. Elias never picked up on the quiet shift in me. Once, I'd flood his texts with photos of dresses, restaurant menus, vacation spots, begging him to weigh in on every tiny decision. Now I made every choice alone, never sending a single follow-up message, never asking for his opinion on anything. He'd grown so used to me orbiting his world that my new silence barely registered to him at first. A few nights post-meeting, he tossed his phone onto the counter before hopping into the shower, voice soft and performatively gentle as he called over his shoulder. "Elias, what do you feel like for dinner tonight? I'll swing by the market and grab takeout on my way home." Once, I'd light up over that simple question, ramble through 3 different meal options and wait for him to pick one. Now I stared at my laptop where the full divorce complaint sat drafted and typed a single word back to his text, whatever. It was the same reply I'd given him thousands of times before, but this time there was no underlying hope, no quiet plea for him to care about what I wanted. I knew full well that while he messaged me about takeout, he was likely firing off a separate text to Lily in that hidden group chat, asking what fancy sushi or dessert she craved that evening. We ate cold rotisserie chicken and bland side salads that night, the whole meal carried out in heavy silence. Elias stared at his phone nonstop beneath the table, thumbs flying fast over the screen while I sorted printed copies of my bank statements and chat screenshots, stacking them neatly into a labeled folder for court. When I stood to clear the plates and rinse dishes, he stepped out onto the balcony to take a hushed private call, his tone sweet and accommodating, the exact tone he'd never once used with me in our 8 years together. I didn't bother straining to listen. I already knew every secret, every dollar trail, every lie. Listening meant nothing anymore. Acting meant everything. Sarah had finished drafting the full separation agreement and civil lawsuit filing by midweek, and she texted me to confirm the paperwork was ready to sign, with all asset claims laid out to recover the $320,000 condo funded by my wages, full ownership of our marital home my parents paid to build, and equitable reimbursement for the millions I'd poured into this sham marriage. Before I filed the official paperwork with the court, I had one critical step left to complete. I needed to officially join our family chat, the group that had excluded me for 8 full years, so I could drop the full asset split document directly in front of every single complicit family member all at once. Elias's phone passcode hadn't changed once in 8 years, our wedding anniversary, October 17th. It was the cruelest irony imaginable, a number he claimed to cherish, yet used to lock away the proof of how he'd erased me from his family entirely. I waited for his midweek evening shower. The moment, he always left his device unattended on the kitchen counter and unlocked it without hesitation. I navigated straight to the hidden group, tapped into chat settings, and flipped off the member approval required toggle so any user could add new participants without group consent. With a single tap, I sent an invite from his account straight to my personal WeChat profile. A system notification popped up instantly at the top of the group feed. Elias invited Chloe to join the chat. I locked his phone, set it screen down exactly where I'd found it, and returned to chopping vegetables for dinner like I never touched his device. Seconds later, my own phone buzzed with a new group alert. You've been added to the chat. Our family. For 8 years this space had been their private bubble of secrets, their safe zone to spoil Lily and plot to discard me once the mortgage cleared. Now I was the 7th member, the wife they'd spent nearly a decade pretending didn't exist. The shower faucet shut off minutes later, and Elias wrapped a towel around his waist, grabbing his phone off the counter to scroll through messages. His shoulders locked the second he saw the new group system alert, eyes wide with panic as he spun to face me in the kitchen, voice tight and nervous. Elias. Chloe, why are you in that family group chat? How did you get added? I set down the kitchen knife, wiped flour off my hands on a dish towel, and turned to face him with a blank, unemotional expression. No yelling, no tears, no accusations, just calm. Factual observation. Chloe, you sent the invite, didn't you? The system message clearly says you invited me to join. He sputtered for a second, caught completely off guard with no ready lie to cover his tracks. He couldn't push the question too hard, either. If he pressed me for details on how I got access to his phone, I'd have to explain I'd read every single chat log, expose Lily's existence to the open air, and blow apart the entire secret he'd guarded for years. After a beat of awkward, flustered silence, he forced a weak, dismissive excuse. Elias, must have been an accidental tap on my screen earlier. I didn't mean to send that invite out. Chloe, that's fine by me. Now we've got a central spot for all family updates, saves us from running separate texts back and forth all the time. I turned back to slicing carrots without another glance his way, leaving him standing frozen in the kitchen doorway, unsure how to push back without unraveling all his lies. That night, the once busy group chat went radio silent. For years they'd sent 20 to 30 messages daily, meal plans, shopping plans, updates on Lily's condo, rants about me behind my back. After my profile popped up as a new member, not a single message was posted for the rest of the night. I realized within hours that they hadn't stopped communicating entirely. They'd migrated to a brand new, unlisted secondary group chat, cutting me out all over again to keep plotting undisturbed. The next morning, Elias shifted into an over-the-top affectionate persona he hadn't used since the first 6 months of our marriage, lingering around the living room while I worked from home, speaking in an overly gentle, placating tone like he was trying to soothe an upset child. Elias, have you been stressed lately? You've seemed really withdrawn these past few days, and I hate seeing you this upset. If that family group chat's been weighing on your mind, don't overthink it. It's just mindless small talk between my parents and Clara. Nothing important gets shared there anyway. Chloe, I'm not upset about it at all. Elias shifted closer, reaching out like he planned to touch my arm, and I subtly stepped back out of his reach without drawing attention to the movement. He dropped his hand awkwardly to his side, scrambling to adjust his approach. Elias, if something's bothering you, just tell me, yeah? I'll fix whatever's wrong immediately. I lifted my gaze from my laptop screen, holding his eyes steady so he couldn't miss the weight of my words. Chloe, there's nothing you can fix. I want a divorce. The room fell dead silent, only the hum of the central air conditioning cutting through the heavy tension. Elias's face drained of color, confusion warring with underlying panic. He wasn't sad about losing me. He was scrambling to calculate exactly how much of his scheme I'd uncovered. Elias, what? Divorce? Out of nowhere, after 8 years of marriage? What on earth brought this on? Chloe, it's not out of nowhere. I've made my decision, final. Elias, did someone plant terrible ideas in your head? Did you overhear gossip from one of your work friends? Chloe, this is entirely my own choice, no outside input needed. He stood upright, jaw tight, and resorted to the oldest play in his family's manipulation playbook, deferring to his mother to pressure me into backing down. Elias, don't make any rash choices before you talk this through with my mom. She'll sit down with you and sort all this mess out properly. I didn't argue with him, just nodded, and went back to sorting my printed legal evidence. I knew exactly what was coming next, a coordinated ambush from his entire bloodline, all united to make me feel guilty for demanding justice after 8 years of exploitation. 3 days later, Saturday morning, a sharp knock echoed through the front door, and I opened it to find Mary, Robert, Clara, and Clara's husband all packed onto the front porch, every single member of his original secret chat group assembled to confront me. Mary stepped forward first, her posture stiff and self-righteous, like she'd come to mediate a childish argument instead of face the fact she'd enabled her son's fraud and infidelity for nearly a decade. Mary, Chloe, we heard you're threatening to end your marriage with Elias. We need to get to the bottom of this nonsense right now. I stepped aside to let them file into the living room, where my stack of bank statements and chat screenshots sat neatly on the coffee table, fully visible for anyone to examine. Mary claimed the center of the couch instantly, Robert settled beside her, Clara hovered standing near the wall, and Elias lingered in the bedroom doorway, watching the confrontation unfold without daring to step in first. Mary, what has Elias done to hurt you so badly you'd throw away 8 years of marriage over a trivial fight? He works hard every single day to provide for this household. You've never had a single reason to complain. Clara jumped in immediately, tone performatively soft and sympathetic, the same fake-caring voice she'd used in the secret group to hype Lily up behind my back. Clara, Chloe, I'm sure this is just a big misunderstanding somewhere along the line. Let's all talk it out calmly instead of jumping straight to divorce papers. Robert let out a dramatic, loud cough, clutching his chest like his blood pressure had spiked at the mere mention of separation, a transparent ploy to make me feel guilty for upsetting the family patriarch. Robert, my heart can't handle all this stress, Chloe. We're all one big family at the end of the day. Why tear everything apart over a little strife? The word family hit me like a punch to the chest, repeated over and over by people who'd spent 8 years intentionally excluding me from their inner circle while rolling out the red carpet for Lily. Elias finally stepped forward into the middle of the room and dropped to one knee in front of me, head tilted down with fake watery eyes, a desperate stage display of remorse meant to make me cave in front of his entire family. Elias, this is all my fault. I've been too wrapped up in work these years and neglected you completely. Give me one more chance. I'll change every single bad habit you hate about me. Mary latched onto the dramatic gesture instantly, turning to me with a sharp, judgmental edge to her voice. Mary, look at how remorseful Elias is. He's never knelt for anyone in his life. What more could you possibly ask for from him? Clara piled on the guilt trip without pause. Clara, you can't hold this over his head forever, Chloe. He's begging you to fix things between you two. For half a split second, a faint twinge pulled at my chest, not compassion for Elias, but sorrow for the version of myself I'd been 8 years prior. If I hadn't uncovered their secret chat logs, hadn't seen the $320,000 condo contract, hadn't read his plan to dump me after the mortgage cleared, this over-the-top public apology would have broken me down into tears, and I would have forgiven him all over again. But every screenshot, every bank record, every lonely birthday and hospital stay sat fresh in my mind, burning away any fleeting sympathy before it could take root. Chloe, stand up, Elias. I've got something to show all of you before we keep talking. He slowly pushed himself back onto his feet. Confusion etched across his face as I pulled my phone out of my jeans pocket and unlocked the screen, navigating straight to the Our Family group chat we were all technically members of. Before anyone could react, I hit send on the first batch of evidence screenshots, one after another, each message triggering a sharp, constant ding sound from every single person's mobile device scattered around the living room. First, the screenshot of the original 6-person group member list. No trace of my name anywhere, only Elias, his parents, Clara, her husband, and Lily. Second, the 2019 Christmas dinner photo of the whole clan gathered around Lily's dumpling spread, all smiling while Elias ate sweet and sour ribs he'd lied about hating for my entire marriage. Third, Mary's message welcoming Lily into the group, writing that she'd been waiting ages for her to join their family circle. Fourth, the photo of the $320,000 condo purchase contract. Elias's caption promising the apartment was all Lily's. Fifth, Mary's text calling Lily their real family member. Mary's hands began shaking violently as she scrolled through the evidence popping up on her phone screen, her confident, authoritative demeanor crumbling instantly. Clara's face bleached pale white, her fake sympathetic expression melting into pure panic. Robert's head hung low, staring at his lap to avoid eye contact with anyone in the room. Elias lurched forward, reaching out to grab my wrist and stop me from sending more images, voice cracking with panic. Elias! Chloe, wait. Don't send any more of this. We can discuss this privately without dragging everyone into it. Chloe, I'm not finished yet. I sent the most damning screenshot of all. The 2023 thread where Elias admitted he planned to discard me once the mortgage finished, that Lily couldn't wait any longer for him to leave his wife. The entire living room fell utterly silent the second that image loaded onto every phone screen, the air thick with unspoken guilt and fear. Elias's face drained from pale to ashen, staring at me like he couldn't fathom how I'd uncovered every hidden word he'd typed to his family years prior. Chloe, you all knew this entire time. Every dollar I earned funding Lily's apartment, every lie Elias told to leave me alone on holidays, every plan to wait 3 years to throw me out once the house debt was cleared. I spent 8 years pouring my life and savings into this family, and none of you ever considered me one of your own. I set my phone down on the coffee table and pulled the printed full separation agreement out of my tote bag, sliding the thick stack of paper across the wooden surface toward Elias's feet. Chloe, this is the formal asset division document I've drafted with my attorney Sarah. Let me walk all of you through the numbers, so there's no room to argue later. I flipped to page 2 of the paperwork, reading each clause out loud slow and clear for every person in the room to absorb, itemizing every single asset I was legally entitled to reclaim after 8 years of one-sided financial sacrifice. I laid out how our marital home's full down payment came from my parents, how every single $4,800 monthly mortgage payment had been withdrawn exclusively from my personal checking account, zero monetary contribution from Elias over 83 months of payments. I then moved to the condo purchase for Lily, explaining the $320,000 down payment was built entirely from my monthly wage transfers into the fake household fund Elias controlled, every monthly condo siphoned from my income as well. I finished reciting the grand total of my personal contributions over 8 years, $2,763,400, then contrasted it with Elias's measly $341,200 total household spending, the gap so massive none of them could find a single rebuttal to throw at me. Mary tried to cut me off mid-explanation, voice shrill and defensive, attempting to shift blame away from her son. Mary, that condo was just a harmless investment property. There's no need to blow this entire family apart over a real estate purchase. Chloe, don't speak over me, Mary. I wasn't asking for your input on this. She clammed her mouth shut instantly. No more excuses to offer. I pulled my phone back up to the group chat one final time, uploading the full PDF copy of the separation agreement, and typed a final message for every member of the chat, including Lily, who had received the document instantly on her device no matter where she was. Chloe, you've had the secret group for 8 years, and I only just got added today. This legal document is the first real truth I've shared with all of you. Read every word carefully, because the court filing will be delivered to Elias next week. All their phones chimed in unison as the PDF uploaded, the weight of 8 years of coordinated deception crashing down on every single complicit person in that living room. I slung my tote bag over one shoulder, ready to walk out the door and leave them to pick apart the wreckage they built together. Before I stepped across the threshold, I paused and tossed one final warning over my shoulder without turning back to face them. Chloe, if you want to avoid public court humiliation with all the chat logs and bank records entered as official evidence, sign the separation agreement by the end of the week. And tell Lily to start packing her belongings out of that condo. None of it belongs to her. Not a single wall, piece of furniture, or balcony flower rack. I pulled the front door shut behind me, and halfway down the apartment building hallway, I heard Mary scream at Elias from inside the living room, furious, but not because he'd broken my heart, stolen millions of my dollars, or betrayed our marriage. She was screaming because their carefully constructed secret scheme had collapsed, and all their lies were exposed for the whole family to see.